Hey guys, I'm Doug, and this is Four Towers, and welcome to the first episode of Coffee and a Chat. Hey Four Towers, thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Well, in our first episode of this podcast, we thought we'd discuss a couple of things. We live in Ontario, Canada, and for the past, since November, we've been in lockdown number 2. Now, in the past week, it has been announced by our education minister, Stephen Lecce, that we are doing a staggered return to in-person learning in Ontario. Starting Monday, the northern regions will be returning to school. Our region where we live, in southern Ontario, will return after the Family Day holiday on the 16th.
Right.
And we've also heard that Premier Ford will be talking about the return to opening up the economy.
Right.
So tell me, what do you...
On the 20th, again, staggered.
Yes.
So, from what we understand, initially, it will be, I think, the northern regions on the 10th.
Okay.
And then majority of the rest of Ontario around the 16th or so. And then we'll see after that the 22nd for the what they call the hot spots, which is Toronto, Peel, and York.
Now, here's my question. Do you think we're ready to return to in-person learning? Personally, myself, I'm not sure. I'm of two minds. Yes, kids need the social interaction of their friends, the environment of a school setting. I agree with that. But we're still at 1,000 cases.
Right. Today we were at 1,460 something.
Somewhere in there, yes. To me, that's still very high.
It is, considering it's higher than it was in the initial lockdown.
Yes.
And the initial time way back in March, when they did close schools just before the March break, and they never reopened again to in-person learning. So, again, like you said, kids, yes, they do need to be in school. A lot of kids don't do well in a at-home learning environment. Now, it's not that easy to learn online. If you've ever been an adult and if you've been an adult and you've taken classes online, it can be difficult to really motivate yourself and.
For sure.
I mean, you don't have that live interaction with your teacher a lot of the time. I mean, they kind of do, but it's not really the same. So I get why they want to have them go back to class. But however, with the new variants around, and especially the UK one, which is proving to actually affect kids more than even the original variants have, I don't know, because I don't know if it's really worth the risk of doing that, considering kids can be spreaders too.
For sure.
They themselves don't get a really serious illness from this. They can spread it to those who potentially could. And I'm not just talking the older population or those in long-term care homes or even immunocompromised.
Okay.
Anybody could potentially get, and we have heard of instances where they have gotten serious cases.
And, this is my concern when we finally get everybody back into the buildings. How do you control that? How do you keep the exuberance from, they're excited to see their friends, they're excited to get into the routines again.
Well, considering we're even seeing now, I mean, we're seeing kids hanging out with their friends. Yeah. Including the high schoolers. They're skating on the rinks that have been man-made. They're hanging out with their friends now, even. So, I mean, I don't necessarily buy, they're not having the interaction with their friends. A lot of them still are actually having interaction with their friends. Maybe not the little ones, but the older ones sure are.
Exactly. And, so I'm sorry you can't use that argument.
No.
I think what we need to do is... Yes, we need to return, but we need to do it in a more controlled fashion.
Right.
And keep a mindful eye. With the new variants in play now, it needs to be watched more carefully. I'm curious to see what new protocols will come out into the school system to keep our kids safe.
Well, considering they had said, now, you probably heard them saying this in speeches on the news, that they've invested a lot of money in HVAC, upgrading HVAC systems, hiring teachers, hiring nurses, hiring more people to do cleaning. Well, we can pretty much confirm that's not really the case, because we know people working in the system, and there is no extra supply teachers as of yet. There's no new nurses in the schools, and unless they were already scheduled, the schools to have the HVAC systems upgraded, they're not doing that in the older schools.
And all it really takes is to look through social media, Twitter, whatever, and to see the response of teachers' federations, and to see how they're responding to what's being spun by the government.
Right. Well, because they actually are there seeing it. So, especially even the custodian staff who's been there from the beginning, they're still working in the schools, they also see it. It's not happening, so that's a spin by the government.
So, I think we need to keep like I was saying, we need to keep an eye on the variants, keep an eye on our numbers.
Right.
And the schools have said, if you feel more comfortable with having your children learn from home, then keep them home.
Do that.
If you want them to come back, have them come back.
Right.
So, we'll have to keep an eye in the next week or 2 or 3 weeks and see how this happens, or what comes of it.
Right.
My next question for you is, how do you think the staggered reopening of the quote-unquote economy will be?
Well, again, it's kind of like there's areas that are doing much better than other areas in Ontario.
That's true.
And actually right across Canada, but in Ontario specifically, the northern regions have pretty much fared really well throughout the entire pandemic.
Yes.
So they're supposed to be the first to get greenlit to open. They're going to go immediately to the green, so everything pretty much can open there. Then the next is supposed to be like the week after, and then the hot spots, which of course Toronto, Peel, and York, potentially the week after that. But as far as I'm aware, it's not set in stone that that's going to be the case. It really will depend, because do you really see the numbers falling below 1,000 in 2 weeks' time?
No.
I don't see it either. Not with schools reopening, and not with the variants now in play.
We have, be that as it may, we have seen a decrease in the numbers.
Because we have a stay-at-home order.
We have a stay-at-home order.
And for the most part, people are following it. Now, granted, we have heard of instances where they aren't following it.
Of course, yes.
But,
well, what if, let's play devil's advocate then, what if, to facilitate the reopening of the economy, we do have a modified stay-at-home order? Where it's like, okay, we're going to reopen, but you have to be home by X amount of time.
So like a curfew.
Well, and for lack of a better word, yes.
Ford has said he's opposed to curfews, so it's not like he's going to implement it anyway. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, I understand with the big box stores specifically, they are talking about the small businesses are suffering because they basically have had to close their doors. Now, I know you still can do pickup and delivery from them. You just can't go inside. So technically they're not closed. They're just closed to people walking in and shopping for themselves. Now, a lot of small businesses don't necessarily have websites that you can buy from, so that is a potential problem there. But you can call them anyway and still buy from them. So it's not like you can't buy from them. They are still open. You just can't go inside, unlike you can with big box stores.
Well, yeah, there's a... Yes.
And people, I keep hearing this over and over again, shut the big box stores down and give the little guys a break. Well, that's detrimental too, and here's why. Because big box stores, not just because they sell pretty much everything you can think of, but they employ hundreds of people in their stores alone.
Of course.
Then they're also talking about your distribution chain, so your truck drivers, your distribution centers. If you shut big box stores down, you're actually literally putting thousands of people on EI.
Of course, it's that domino effect, and even John Tory himself has said it's that string of pearls. You pull one, everyone else drops, like you were saying.
It would actually cost the economy more money to put big box store, close them, and let the small stores open than leaving them open. And plus, you can't compare the size difference too.
No.
You're talking about a Costco with 100,000 square feet. You can actually distance. You can't distance in a small store.
No, you can't. I mean,
yes, it can control the flow, and a lot of them do. You're not going to have hundreds of people in a small store at once. You just won't. But it's really a double-edged sword here.
I think what we need to do, and like what they're doing right now with the bylaw officers doing the safety blitz to make sure they're following the protocols and whatever, I think while we're slowly reopening the economy, keep that going.
Right, of course.
Keep that going. Keep everyone honest. Keep everyone above board.
Right.
Because people sometimes will slip back into old habits. And
yeah, well, even again, we probably won't hear till tomorrow. It's Sunday night here. That they've been doing blitzes every weekend. So last weekend there was about a 59% compliance. So that means almost half is not complying. So, and that seems to be the last few weeks since they've been doing these blitzes. You're always finding 60 to 59% compliance. Now you need to raise that to 100% compliance if at all possible if you really want to get control of this and let everybody open up. That's what it will take. So
would you agree to like the bylaw officers still staying in function?
Oh, of course, most definitely. I mean, you're going to need it even more so once the economy starts to open.
Of course.
And the kids go back to school. Everyone's going to need to be compliant, or else these numbers are going to skyrocket again.
I think right now it's going to be a wait and see. And
we'll see if the numbers go down. They'll gradually open it.
And we will discuss when we hear from our government here in Ontario what is the plan. Because I believe it's Premier Ford said maybe Monday he would release what his step-by-step would be for the province.
That's what he said.
And, once we know, we will give our opinion on it. And also, we'd like to put out to you guys, if you have anything you'd like myself and Four Towers to discuss, please contact us at cupofjoechat@gmail.com. And if we find this subject or whatever you have asked us to talk about interesting, and we'll do the research, it'll be on the air in the next episode. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you very much for having me.
I am ecstatic to have you here, and thank you guys for tuning into the very first episode of our podcast, and I hope that we can continue the conversation. And
it's an important conversation, especially right now. I know it's a hot button topic, and I know it's pretty controversial, and a lot of people have very different opinions on it. There's some people who open everything, let us live, just protect the vulnerable in LTC homes, that sort of thing. And then there's others, shut everything down and don't open it again until our numbers are below 1,000 or even 100, that sort of thing. So it's a really, you got a lot of different opinions on the matter.
Of course. So it's like 50% of one and 50% of the other. Let's follow what our government is telling us, our health units are telling us. Let's do right by one another, keep each other safe. You guys out there, please stay safe, stay happy, and always remember to get a refill when you go for coffee. Take care, be safe, guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye for now.